Hello everyone, welcome to the Magic Hour with myself, Jamie Mendez, spiritual intuitive and oracle, as well as a spiritual communicator. This is my page, Magical Me, and today I have a special Magic Hour for you. I will be live for the next 60 minutes, joined by the lovely Meredith Morris, astrologist and also owner and creator of the page Mermade, Trove. I'll be joined by her very, very shortly. So as soon as she tunes in, I will be able to pull her into the live chat with me. You are all in for an incredibly special treat today. Hi, everybody. I see you all starting to pop in. Welcome, welcome. Mandy, Lynette, Liz, MJ, Bridget, Courtney, and Julie. Did I miss anybody? Barbara. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy that you all could make it. Hi, Deborah. Welcome. So we're going to take a few moments and I'm going to give a little bit of time for Meredith to join in as well. Since Facebook Live does not allow you to pull someone in prior to starting a live video, I will have to wait for her to join and then I'll be able to add her to the live chat, which is going to be so exciting because this is the first time that Meredith and I have actually got to see each other face to face. If you can call it face-to-face, but it's going to be the first time. So again, I'm going to be live tonight with Meredith Morris of Mermade Trove. Meredith is an astrologist who I happened to stumble upon, or she stumbled upon me one way or the other. And there she goes. Hi, I see you joined as Mermade Trove. Let me see if it'll allow me to pull you in that way. So give me a few seconds and I'll give it a try. Hi, Maggie. Hi, Grace. Oh, yay. That's so exciting, Maggie. Hi, Lala. Hi, Jane, Faye, Gregory, Robin. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so give me 1 second. Bear with me. I'm going to attempt to pull Meredith in right now. So one moment. Let's see if it will allow me. It's different every time. There we go. I see her. Oh, now it moved. As new people join in, it keeps moving on me here. Oh, I'm sending you an invite request right now, Meredith. So you should be receiving something popping up on your screen. I do believe you'll have to have your screen horizontally, hun. This way we can do the split screen option. So I hope everybody is having a wonderful Sunday evening. Again, for those of you who aren't aware of what I will be talking about today with the lovely Meredith Morris, we will be discussing the astrology of the coming 11-11-11 gateway. We'll be talking all about what that even means, 11-11-11, and we will be discussing birth charts. We will be discussing the astrology and where it will be aligned on 11-11, so November 11, 2018, which does break down to be a number 11. We'll talk about that in a second. We are also going to be talking about birth charts. Those of you who are have the life path number of 11. So we'll be talking a lot all about that. Let me just see if I'm missing any comments here. If I can try to figure out how to get back to the comments now. There we go. Let's see. Hi, Allie. Welcome. Good to have you here. Hi, Laura. And Meredith, let me know, hun. Actually, I'm going to give you a buzz here on Messenger too, just to make sure that we are not having. I know sometimes it's very fickle with how that works. Oh, no problem, Meredith. Take your time. You know, technology. This is live, everybody, so you know that he's right on cue. I was just going to warn you about him. That is my pup, Anubis. Those of you who tune into Magical Me often, you know that Anubis makes himself known every now and then. So this is live. So bear with us as we take a few moments to try to connect together. You know, it's always fun and interesting. Hi, Rodney. Hey, Jillian. Welcome. Do you want me to give it a try again, Meredith? Hi, Tammy. Welcome. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome. Welcome, 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 everyone. So happy all of you are able to tune in live tonight. Let me just see. Hi, Angela. Hi, Lindsay. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Let's see. Okay, I'll give it a try again, Meredith. So, okay, invite sent. Hopefully it works. Hi, Caitlin.
There we go.
Oh my goodness. It's so wonderful
Hi.
to see you.
It's so exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. I'm so honored to have you. And it's wonderful to get to meet you for the first time. Um,
Yes.
so I know we've been talking a little bit here and there. I stumbled across Meredith's page, or she stumbled across mine, one way or the other. And I really loved what I saw. I saw that Meredith is, she's an astrologist. She does a daily astro forecast, which I think is phenomenal. And she really breaks it down. I've followed a lot of astrologists before, and no shade to anybody else out there at all. Everybody's different and unique the way that they share their information. But I do have to say that I really love the way that you share your information, Meredith, because it really is designed directly for the average person. It's really in layman's terms that people can really understand it. And not only does Meredith do or share the astro forecast every day, she shares a crystal of the day to help us with whatever is going on astrologically, and oil, which is incredibly unique. So kudos to you, sweetheart, and thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you. Just to speak to that a little bit, I know that every astrologer has, their own way of how they interpret everything, and I think the biggest thing is people think that astrology is really, complicated, and it is. It can get really, deep, and, it can be very vulnerable. It can expose you and all of that, but ultimately at the end of the day, my whole thing is I want people to feel like they can use astrology every day. It doesn't have to be like, you're having a crisis. Now you have to go get your birth chart read, and, you have to get all of these, answers. Um, and starting with the moon is like, the best way, because it's the fastest moving celestial body, and its phase and the sign that it's in, it really plays a huge role in, how we operate every day, the the atmosphere, the energy in the air. So having the tangible things like the crystals and the essential oils, they really help people have something that they can hold on to correlate with something that seems so elusive. So it's and some of it is intuitive, like, I have intuitive feelings and get messages on specific, oils and specific crystals, but most of the time it's like a collective, understanding. You can read in a book and find specific things that,
Right.
work best for a specific stone or oil.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you
Well,
for that.
thank you. I'm really excited that you're here to discuss this because it's really, I think it's really important. And, astrology has been around for what, thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Yes. Yes.
You know, our ancient ancestors, I mean, this was the predominant way for them
Hmm.
to receive information or to get a little bit of clarity and insight as to what was going on. And
Right.
at some point in time, like many, many things, we really moved away from all of that, So I think it coming back and making more of a presence, we're hearing it so much more now when you hear somebody talking about Venus is in Scorpio, and I think
Hmm.
maybe the door opener might have been Mercury in retrograde. I
Yeah.
heard people who don't have a spiritual inkling whatsoever, not a bad thing, but people who
Hmm.
haven't really kind of opened up to that yet, they're starting to be like, oh, is Mercury in retrograde? I know that means something with cars.
Right.
So it's starting to really make itself known, and people are becoming more aware of how big of an impact. And I think it's obviously in lieu of this powerful shift we're having in consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that big shift in consciousness is what we're going to be talking about today, which is November 11th,
Mm-hmm.
2018 is one of many energy gateways. Numbers play a really big role in our evolution, in our ascension, and people are beginning to also become more aware of that. You don't know how many people I have messaging me saying, I'm seeing, 555 everywhere, or I'm seeing 1111. What does this mean? So people are really becoming more aware. So I think it's fantastic to be talking about this with you today. So before we go further, I want to make sure everybody can hear us. I know I saw a few comments that said that they were having trouble with audio. So can anybody else add in? Are you struggling to hear? Am I too far away? I don't want to be like smack up in. Hi, Kristen. Yeah, so anybody tuning in live, just let us know. Can you hear us okay? How's the audio and video on your end? You only hear me, Barbara. You don't hear Meredith. Sandy says the sound is soft, move in. Well, you have.
I have my earbuds on,
Yeah,
so.
MJ says that she can hear us both. Shelly can hear us. So it may just be for certain people. Bree hears us both. Hi, Bree. So maybe anybody who is struggling with audio, sometimes it helps if you close out, maybe kind of like close out the app completely and then pop back on and see how it goes from there. Yeah, I hear the majority can hear us fine. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate that. Unless the sound is cracking. Well, there might be a little background noise as we are on. Okay, thanks, hon. Lindsay says mine's a little softer. It's probably because I can't find my earbuds and I'm not close enough. I'm not trying to be like my face smack up the camera.
Well, I can hear you okay, so that's something.
And for anybody else that is struggling with audio, if you have a pair of earbuds close by, that actually will really clear out any background noise and you'll be able to hear us perfectly. So maybe grab some earbuds if you can, okay? All right. So with that said, we are going to be talking about a few things today. We are going to be talking about, obviously, 11, 11, 11. That is coming up next week. We're going to be talking a little bit about astrology and how the astrology of the 11, 11, 11 gateway. We are going to be talking about, I believe you said, Meredith, maybe tapping into some people who have the life path of the number 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we'll talk all about what that is for those of you who don't know what that life path is. A little bit about birth charts, since this is what Meredith does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I will go ahead and I'll start talking a little bit about the power of numbers and what energy gateways are. Okay, so 11, 11, 11, as I said, first of all, November is the month of an 11. The date is going to be an 11. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, it's probably because I don't have my earbuds. I'm sorry about that. So November is the month of 11. The day next week that we are talking about is an 11. 2018 breaks down numerically to be the year of an 11. Okay, so you do have an 11, 11, 11 number here. So numbers are incredibly important because they are not only used mathematically, and by a lot of our ancient ancestors, they were actually, it was more about the energy and the frequency or the vibration of numbers. So I am not a numerologist. I do not claim to be a numerologist, but I do understand numbers and how they speak to me. And even in my readings, numbers come up as part of the reading. So they're very much intuitive. It's very much about, they each hold their own vibration into what they bring to the table. The number 11 in itself is considered what we call a master number. So master numbers are numbers that do not get broken down, okay? So in the world of numerology, which is said to be brought to us by way of Pythagoras, if anybody is familiar with that. Um, he did not only just create what we know as math today, he understood that numbers held a very powerful vibration and resonance and how they affected us. Thank you, Robin. So yeah, anybody who's struggling, maybe grab yourself a pair of earbuds. Um, if this is as best as it's gonna get for now, I'm so sorry about that. Okay. Um, so yes, so in the world of numerology or in the world of numbers, many people resonate with 0 through the number 9. And that is pretty much like a journey, if you will. 0 be starting out as like the number of almost like the void of starting out of creation. Number 1 is a number of forward movement, kind of just starting out. It's the number of new beginnings. It's the number of rebirth. And then as you make your way up to number 9, 9 is about the completion of a journey or the completion of a cycle. So again, this is just how numbers speak to me. So when you have a number that is doubled by itself, like an 11, this is what we refer to as a master number, because it is considered sacred, that it's the power of itself times itself, if that makes sense. So when you have the power of a number 1, which is all about rebirth, new beginning, forward movement, now you times that by itself. Now you have this 11, which to me always looks like 2 sides of a doorway, 2 pillars on the side of a gateway. So I've always seen the number 11 as, and with 29 viewers, which equals 11 at this time. 11 to me always equals like the opening of a doorway or the opening of a gateway for new energy to come in, new opportunities to present itself, new growth, forward movement. It's also considered the most intuitive, which you see 11s a lot when you are beginning to shift in consciousness. So a lot of people having spiritual awakenings will say that they see 11s a lot around that time. It's really when you start to become aware of the bigger picture and you kind of take yourself from one state to the next. It's kind of like jumping forward. Being the most intuitive number, I think it's called that because it's about connecting to what's outside of yourself, tapping into your higher self or a higher power or the divinity within you or the divinity in, the divinity itself or the divine itself. So becoming much more aware of that. So now if you understand how powerful an 11 is by itself, now you see 11, 11, 11. Now you have the power of 3 in there. So you've got 3 11s. So 3 is the number of creation. It's no secret to many of you who follow my page, to many of you who follow other spiritual teachers or guidance, that we are on the brink of an evolution. We are shifting in vibration as a collective and within the planet itself. So this new energy that is coming in to help us shift from one way into the next is literally helping us all ascend, if that makes sense. So helping us rise in vibration, helping us to come out of a lower density, which is, long story short, limiting. Very much about old ways of doing things. A lot of us don't believe that the power comes from within, that power comes from outside of ourselves. So it is really about starting to shift into a higher frequency where we are starting to recognize the bigger picture as a collective. We're starting to realize that we ourselves are divine, that we ourselves have power to create here in the world, and that we ourselves are part of this massive collective consciousness where it's not just separation, it's not just you and me on this path anymore. What I do affects you and what you do affects me, and it creates a ripple effect. So this 11, 11, 11 gateway is what I refer to as an energy portal or an energy gateway. which means that there is this gateway of sorts that opens up like a doorway at this date to send in activation codes or light codes. And these codes, you're not, you might not see them, but you will more than likely feel them if you are energy sensitive. And some of you may have no idea that it's happening whatsoever. But this doorway is opening to bring forth this new frequency, and it's like little upgrades at a time. So each energy gateway that happens, we are expanding more and more and more. So with the power of each number gateway, it gives you a hint as to what is happening. So with the number 11, 11, 11, we are having this upgrade in the light codes that are coming in are helping to not only expand us in our own consciousness, within our own divinity, but if you were to break down a number 11, it would be a 2, which is the number of balance. So it's about two things, taking the need for two things in order to create something new. So I hope that you're all being able to follow me here, because I know we have little time, so I'm trying to get out as much as I possibly can. I'm going to show you something really quickly to help you kind of corroborate what I'm saying. I don't take anything at face value. I always, and I love that Meredith said that a lot of her information is intuitive, because taking anything at face value, does anybody hear that? Do you hear a background noise?
It might be me. My air conditioning just came on, so maybe that's what you're hearing. Is it too loud?
Nope, it just went off.
Okay.
So, thank you. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't something static on my end. So really what's happening here is a balance is coming in. So as we rise in frequency, we're shifting out of old, outdated thoughts, old, outdated ways of being, old, outdated belief systems. So part of that is the balance of masculine and feminine coming in here. It is important for us all to understand that we are all divine masculine and divine feminine. It's not about male and female. This is about masculine energy and feminine energy, also known as yin and yang energy. So for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, we have been really out of balance. We have been kind of governed and programmed by a dominant patriarchal perspective and way of being. That has kept us in separation, in a consciousness of separation, that I am different from you, and you are different from me, and there's a rank and a status and an order, and there's race, and there's this. That has kind of kept us all, even female and male. You know, it's been very much about an imbalance because of this whole patriarchal way of being. Now, what's happening with 11, 11, 11 is the balance coming in to bring feminine and masculine side by side within for union, for unity. Because when that unity happens within you, then the unity can happen without and outside of you, in the world around us. So it is helping us all to bring a balance. You see the rise of this goddess energy, this feminine energy that a lot of people are now talking about. It is not to say that the goddess energy is better than the masculine god energy, or that there is a goddess and a god. It's about reigning masculine and feminine together as one people. But in order for that to happen, we do have to bring up the rise of the feminine to come beside the masculine, if that makes sense. So it's about the matriarchal coming together with the patriarchal for a balancing. So it's a lot more in depth than that and than what I can do in an hour. But you can see there is a balance that's happening. And so this doorway that's going to be opening up on 11, 11, 11, it's already really open. It actually began opening at 11, 1, 11. It's kind of been like a 2-week period here almost, where we are gradually being expanded, and we will be flooded, or the planetary grid will be flooded with light codes, number codes, and activation codes to assist us all in expanding our own consciousness as well as our energetic bodies. So I pulled some cards, and I want to get over to Meredith then what she's got to say to here for all of us. But just so that you know, where the information comes that I receive mainly is from my own intuition. I say all the time, my instincts and trusting my intuition has been my biggest teacher. A lot of my information and knowledge does not come from books. However, it will be corroborated by information I come across, maybe different spiritual teachers, maybe some books, maybe some articles, and I will see that there is a collective synchronicity happening with what we are all using intuitively. So I pulled cards to ask about the 11-11-11 gateway. And the first one that I pulled was White Witch. And it says, be the light. So here you have very divine feminine card. It says white, which to me is all about white light. It's all about that Holy Spirit, which is all about the divine feminine and divine masculine together as one. Some people refer to that as the Christos Sophia, some the God, the goddess, some source. Source energy with white light and light codes flooding the planet at that time and collective consciousness. The owl is very important because the owl is all about revealing that which has been hidden from us. So helping us to see outside of the illusion that has kind of been cast over us throughout this whole patriarchal reign, if you will. The next card was the High Priestess, and very Egyptian energy here. It says harness mystic power. To me, I was very drawn in this card to ancient civilizations and what they knew. And the Merkaba that's floating up here, which is a sacred geometric shape. We are all created with sacred geometry. So that's a whole nother topic, whole nother class, but sacred geometric shapes are part of creation. So new creation energy, light codes, geometric codes, number codes, all for the ascension. The next card was the Goddess Sovereignty. And it says, become your own sovereign. And if you look at these two circles, this is also, these are kind of like sacred geometry here as well. It's the Vesica Pisces. This is about the balance between masculine and feminine within yourself in order to become one and sovereign within. Okay. The next is Artemis, defend what is dear to you. So this to me was very much, Artemis is a goddess, very much about the divine feminine energy coming in here to help us all see our potential, see our sovereignty. And that's what these light codes and ascension codes are coming in for. So there you have it yourself. Okay. On 11-11-11, I will be doing another magic hour. I usually try to space them out, but since it's such a special day, I'll be doing another magic hour with my partner, Karen, and we will be talking all about sound, the power of sound healing, and I will be doing a special light transmission that day to assist with the ascension codes. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Meredith. And Meredith, let's hear if you want to share a little bit about maybe what the astrology is going to look like, how maybe do you see anything really extraordinary happening with the planets on 11-11?
That's a good question. So I don't know how advanced or beginner everybody is that's watching with astrology. So I want to make sure that when I'm explaining things that it's not like completely over everyone's head, but that it resonates. And just listening to you talk and the cards that you're drawing and your interpretation of the number one, it's all very much in alignment with what I'm seeing is happening that day. So that's interesting to me.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I have a PDF that I wanted to share with everybody who's watching, and I just posted the link to it just so that you have something that you can look at, because it's kind of hard to visualize planetary aspects The file's kind of big, but it's on Google Drive, so anybody should be able to just click it and it'll load up. But
Look it up too.
what's that?
I can try to pull it up too.
Okay. And on the chart, I've basically highlighted the exact aspects that are happening that I think are going to be the most potent, but I've left in the background the things that are still part of the whole picture. And just going back to the birth chart, because a lot of people are going to look at this and they're not really going to know what they're looking at. Most people, you know, when you're talking about astrology, you say, what's my sign? And so everybody thinks that they have just this one sign that they are. And when I was younger and, you know, it was real popular back in the day, you get a magazine, you open it up. First thing you do is you flip to the back of the magazine and you look for your horoscope. You're like, what does it say? What am I today? And so I recall always looking my horoscope up and I would be like, what is this? This isn't me. This doesn't resonate, you know, like, what is this? So, you know, for a while I was kind of like, I don't know about all this. And then I would say actually it was a numerology book that I read about 12 years ago that kind of got my curiosity back interested in astrology. And so I went online and I was looking, I was like, where can I get myself a birth chart, you know, because you can get them for free, or you can get like, you pay $25 and you can get one. And, you know, it's got like the generic delineations and all of that, but there's actually a lot of richness in that to somebody who has no idea about astrology. So anyway, getting that chart reading was perfect for me, because that was when I realized I had a rising sign and I had a moon sign and I had a sign, a Venus sign, and I had all these planet signs. And I was like, this is why I never identified with my sun sign, because I'm identifying more with my rising sign and my moon sign, and which are Virgo. So I'm more, you know, behind the scenes, and I'm more into the details, and I'm more into, you know, getting information and collecting it all, and, you know, being, you know, just real specific with the details. And my sun sign is a Sagittarius, and it's like, well, everybody who knows a Sagittarius is somebody who's wild and free. And there are those aspects, but you know, for me, it's, I want to be wild and free with information, and I want to, you know, collect it. I want to learn. So going back to, if everybody's had a chance to look at the birth chart that you're seeing on, or the birth chart, but the I guess it would be the birth chart of 11/11. And I actually picked the time 11:11 a.m. Pacific time. So and that's just because that's where I am. But, you know, anybody could pull up a chart and they could look at 11:11 at their own time. And the Capricorn that you'll see on the horizontal line to the left side of the chart is the rising sign. So essentially, it's the sign of Capricorn is rising at that moment. So the rising sign, a lot of people don't know what that is. Basically, it's the sign that was on the eastern horizon the moment that you were born. And it represents our gateway. So it's like our gateway into our soul and how we connect to other people's souls. It's the way we dawn on people, and it is one of the underpinnings of the chart, just like the moon and the sun. So I typically read my rising sign when I'm looking at horoscopes, because a lot of astrologers will write their horoscopes as though the sun is on the first house, and the rising sign represents the first house. So if you don't connect with your sun sign, maybe you don't have a strong sun signature in your chart, you might want to try reading your rising sign, because you might get a little bit more resonance there. So back to 11:11, I really liked your interpretation of the 11 and going back to the numbers and the math, that's one of my whole reasons why I love astrology, is because of all of the mathematical aspects, the way that the planets talk to one another every day, and how their conversations influence our lives. So my experience with the number 11, it does relate with the first house, which is where we begin. It's where we, start. So if you don't understand the way the houses work, there's 12 of them. And the first one is basically you're just being born. It is, ruled by or associated with Aries and Mars, and it's to be, to exist. And I also find that the number 1 on its own is very closely associated with creativity and confidence. And a lot of people who are, on the life path for the number 1, they can find that they channel their energy best when they're being creative and when they're finding ways to express creativity. So the houses that this day really kind of focus on for me are the first house, which is the self, and the 5th house, which is creativity. And it's our inner child. And it's basically the thing that makes us unique and special. And I think that people who operate highly with this sign, they're going to find that they are more creative and in service of people, and they feel secure with themselves. People who operate on a lower level and who are still working to mature through this feel blocked and stuck and frustrated. They may feel inferior because they can't find the proper ways of expressing themselves. And ultimately, in the end, it's maturing through that insecurity to creativity and to confidence. So when you have 2 of those,
I'm going to stop you real quick. And I'm going to tell you. So my life path number is an 11. So I'm definitely, real interested to hear what you have to say about that. But maybe we should just explain really quickly how someone would know what their life path number and really what that means.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of different ways, and like you, I'm not a numerologist, so just going off of my own experience. Basically, you take your birthday, and you take the day that you were born, the month you were born, the day you were born, and the year, and you put it all in a row like it's one digit, and then you add it up until you get to the end, and that's your number. That's your life path number. And like you mentioned with master numbers, when you get to those, they do not, you do not add those together. They stay as the master number. So yeah. And I'm not an 11. I think I would say that I'm half of a 1 because I'm a 5. So yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that just because you have a specific number that you might not be dealing with these specific energies throughout your life as you're going through different phases in life. So yeah.
Because it's just like you said too, when you and I were talking the other day, essentially we're not just one sign.
Right.
We're really essentially all of them, just through all of the signs, and a lot of different signs are through our different houses. And
yeah, exactly. And that's why often you'll find when astrologers are doing readings or posting horoscopes, they're going to ask you, what part of your chart do you have, Venus transiting right now? What part of your chart do you have Cancer? Because the part of that chart is where you're going to be expressing it. Under the teachings that I've been with astrology, the house is the environment, so it's the area of your life. The sign is the expression of that environment. And then the planet is the energy that's going through that particular area. And then I like to call aspects the exchange, and it's how they communicate with one another. So whether it's an ease or it's challenge. And you were mentioning at the beginning of this call about how astrology goes way back, forever. So, and what's interesting about that is when it originally was, you know, it came to be, it was about telling fortunes, and it was about telling people what they're going to be doing and taking that power away from them. And now it has evolved into a tool that operates similar to what a meteorologist would tell someone. You know, the meteorologist gets up there and tells you that, you know, it's going to be partly sunny today, but it's going to be really windy. That pretty much tells you I need to bring my sunglasses and I need to wear something, you know, warm. Or you can go outside without your sunglasses and you can just, you know, be in the bright sunlight, and you can go outside in shorts and a tank top and freeze to death. But ultimately, it's giving you sort of a groundwork for what you're going to be dealing with. So my point is that, you know, when an astrologer says it's going to be slightly challenging today because Mars is square Pluto but trine Venus, you know, you go into the day knowing that people are going to be pressing your buttons, but at the same time, there's a softness as to how you'll deal with it. So there's just kind of these different ways that works. It's not telling you what you're going to do. It's not giving you your future. It's not taking that. It's actually empowering you to make the best decision with, you know, the terrain. It's like giving you a roadmap. So
I love that because I'm all about, and anybody who follows my work or is taking classes with me, I'm all about giving people the tools to help themselves.
mm-hmm.
I'm definitely not one of those teachers that gives you all of the information or tells you what to see or tells you how you should. I'm
Right.
really all about helping you to expand your own intuition so that you can see things, because the way that you see things might be a little different than, you know, let's say the way that I see or interpret something, but that's how it needs to be for you to see it. So I think that even when I started out first originally doing readings, I actually started out reading tarot. And not that there's definitely nothing wrong with tarot. I just feel like there is a little bit of a difference between tarot being kind of like a system that's created, and it kind of leans towards, and not all readers do this, you know, so I definitely don't want there to be any miscommunication here. Not all readers do this way. A lot of readers, they tap into their intuition, and that's great.
Yeah.
But when you're so focused on this structure, it does kind of become like fortune telling a little bit, which is kind of like, I'm going to tell you your fortune. And I then became an oracle card reader because oracle cards are very new. They only been on the scene maybe the last, I don't know, like 8 years or so. They're fairly new, but oracles are not. And so the ability to receive information is more so for guidance. Like, here's some information. This is the potential. You have free will. So your outcome can change based on what you decide. So it's up to you. So here's the information. Here's what you do with it. And that's what I really loved about readings. And I have to really go over that with people every time I start with a new client for readings, because there's still this huge miscommunication about, I'm going to sit down and you're going to tell me my future. You know, and it's absolutely not that way. So I love how you just explained that with, you know, the astro forecast every day, because it is about empowerment, and it is still about you having that choice, that free will, to help yourself or not, you know, use the information or not. So I love that. I really love that.
Yeah, and I just to speak to free will, I think free will versus fate is one of the challenges of the number 11 person. You know, because it comes down to them with the law of choices, because it's about choosing your destiny, and it's about taking that responsibility. And it's easier sometimes for people to float along and hope that people kind of choose what it is that they're going to be doing for themselves. But in the end, it's about you making that choice and feeling confident to do that. And
I completely resonate with that. Absolutely, I really do. I'm all about that. You know, I'm all about not having. It's really much. If I could say that I came into this life with one word on my lips, it would be freedom. It's all about, for me, and it probably has to do with obviously lots of my, you know, my chart, my signs, but 11 itself being, I'm all about self-empowerment, and discovering the information on your own, um, and not having someone tell you how this is supposed to be. So it is about that choice. You have the choice to either
Right.
take it or not. So I definitely can relate to that, and I think that you hit the nail on the head
Well,
about
and
that.
we're in such a good position right now with just the way technology is, like, in the year 2018, like we get information given to us now at lightning speed, and the amount of information that we absorb in comparison to what people absorbed even 100 years ago is just like a lifetime's worth of information in a day. And one of the main things that prompted me to start Mermaid Trove is that I learned everything that I know through research, through books, through what I felt called to, and then, like you said, you end up finding things later on, and you're like, I already had this thought and it's already out there. So it's like, we're downloading and we're getting this information, and we go off in our own path. And Mermaid Trove is basically intended to be just that, and it's still building, but I want it to be a trove of treasures for people who are looking for information. I want people to be able to look at their chart, and I want them to be able to feel confident and empowered that they can figure it out, and that they can also talk to other people about it. We have all the tools and all the resources at our fingertips to understand and to figure things out, which is just mind blowing.
I love that. And on that note, Meredith absolutely does birth charts for people. So if you, at the end of this, would love to head over and check out her page on Facebook, it is Mermade Trove. Mermade spelled Mermade, Trove, Trove. And she does have her services up there. So if you are interested in having your birth chart done, which I absolutely am, I just handed over my information to Meredith and said, "Go on ahead." I'm definitely interested. I've paid attention to astrology. I've learned a little here and there, but definitely not on not on the level of you. So I love the way that you interpret, and I'm super excited to hear all about that. But if you yourself or anybody watching, you're interested to know about your birth chart, because as Meredith said, having an understanding about how you kind of came into this world, where these planets all were aligned at the time of your birth, not just your sun sign, does have a huge impact on how you best can maneuver through life. It's not to say that this and this and this is going to happen, but it is to say that this is how you can best swim through the river,
Mm-hmm.
is trying to swim against it. It helps you to have that understanding. And I always say that knowledge is power. When you have an awareness of, who you are, or, what affects you in which way, and what empowers you versus what challenges you, it really does make, I think it puts your life into perspective, and it helps you to empower yourself to become the best version of yourself. So Meredith has the option to purchase getting your birth chart done with her. And you could talk a little bit more about what you do, because you also offer planets a la carte
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yes.
So if you want to go ahead and share a little bit of information.
Yeah, so the birth chart reading is really great, obviously, because it gives you a really in-depth overview of your basically, the birth chart is a seed. It's who you were when you were born, and it shows your potential. And we can look at the aspects that you have natally and your strengths and challenges versus what's transiting and what's touching specific parts of your chart every day. As you live your life. And those things also impact the way that you operate. But I also offer targeted readings, like, if you want to focus on a specific area and you're not really trying to go like wide, you want to go deep, you can reach out for a reading for just a specific planet or a specific area or house of your chart that is, calling out to you, or that you're having a hard time with. And if you don't even know then I can work with you on that. I can take a look at your chart and I can say, I think this might be the best area for us to look at right now. So.
Yeah, for example, the other day, I think Venus, the discussion of Venus came up and where Venus was in everybody's charts. And, Venus is in Scorpio because it was really big. Venus was just in Scorpio. So you and I have been discussing that. And so when those things come up and people are like, well, Venus is making a really big deal this last couple of weeks. Where is Venus? I would like to know where is Venus in my chart and how it affects me. You don't have to have a whole birth chart done. You can just, reach out to Meredith and really have her focus specifically on where Venus is in your chart and how exactly it does resonate with you or affect you in which way.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, Venus is retrograde right now. So that's a whole conversation on its own. But yeah.
And I think that maybe, in the future I would like to maybe have you back a couple of times and we can, dabble here and there with different, planets and what they're doing and talk more about that too, because they are topics all within themselves. So.
Yeah. And Venus is actually, she's operating in the background right now with 11-11-11. So I wanted to just kind of move over to the chart. I don't know if anyone has it up, but I'm going to go ahead and start on it.
I couldn't pull it up only because
the
mobile app is letting me click on the link, but
yeah, and I probably should have made it a little smaller, but I was afraid it might be blurry, so it's kind of a large file. But so there's 3 major exact aspects going on the 11th, and they're very closely in alignment with the cards that you pulled. The first one being the Sun sextile Pluto at 7:18 a.m. Pacific time on the 11th. And I correlate this whole aspect. It's a ease aspect. It's not challenging, but when you have the life force, the sun, working with Pluto, even with an easy aspect, it's not, it's still not a piece of cake. It's still deep. And I call this aspect soul awakening. And I think that that's really huge to the 11-11-11 that you were talking about, with it being about awakening and a consciousness shift. And this is hugely supportive for that. So I would, if I were writing a reading today about it, I would encourage people to try and find ways to ask themselves questions about, how it is that they are, how is their energy flowing right now? Do you have creative projects that you're working on or activities that are going on, or is there a blockage? These kinds of things, or this kind of energy, is great for doing anything that's going to allow you to break that up, or you'll be in the position to where it lends itself to, understanding your purpose. So I don't know if you want to speak to that at all about the number 1.
Well, it's forward movement. So, I mean, where we've been having those blocks, and it's interesting because, like I said, next week I will actually be sharing a live light language transmission. Anybody who's ever, I have just kind of really started doing them publicly. I do them in my healing sessions all the time with clients. But the most important reasons that they come through actually very pivotal times, and my guides start telling me, this is time for you to step forward and help the collective and share these light language transmissions, because it is code, light code, and sacred geometric shapes coming out in the form of sound, which we'll be talking all about next week, to assist with those blockages that people are having difficulty releasing. And the blockages are not more so, they are in our consciousness. It is in our consciousness, because again, it goes back to the beginning of the show tonight. We talked about the pre-programmed, like the patriarchal programming that we've had over how many hundreds and hundreds of years. But it's also assisting you on a light body layer to release any outdated, and this is really, really deep. So it's hard for me to really go into that big of an explanation, but it's assisting you on your own light body, which is essentially, if you can imagine that the earth itself has its own grid template, okay, like a light grid, think of like, like longitude, latitude looking lines grid. This is kind of like the template or blueprint of the planet, and how everything kind of goes with that. Our bodies also have a light grid on our light body. And so those have been kind of clogged up, blocked up. And the way that I understand it is they're being recreated. And so is the template of the earth. So it's really about helping to recreate, so breaking down those barriers that prevents us as a collective from being able to recreate those templates. If that makes sense, that's how I see it. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And and then I want to speak to this next aspect along with that, because the exacts happen really closely together. So we have the sun, the light body, the life force, the luminary, sextile Pluto, which is about transformation, and death and rebirth, essentially. And then within a few minutes after that, at 7:25 a.m. Pacific time, we have the moon conjuncting exact Saturn. And that's really huge in what I call karmic lessons, because it's about our inner world. The moon is the luminary that represents who we are inside. And Saturn is the god of time, and he represents in tarot the world. And it's about not just past lives, but recognizing, I think, that time is nonlinear, and it's about resonance, and it's not about linearity. And so you can do things presently to impact yourself in the future, and you can do things presently to impact yourself in the past and other people. So the whole karmic lessons there in that too. I believe, from what I've been taught, that Saturn is actually the location that we have Saturn in our chart is actually the planet that we choose last, because it's the place that we need to understand the most, and it's often the most difficult. So Saturn conjunct the moon, while normally a conjunction isn't really considered too difficult, it can go both ways, but it's a blending of the two. It's a blending of time and of structure and of getting ourselves together with our internal world and our emotional world. And because I'm talking about the moon now, I also want to mention that day the moon is in Capricorn, and she is crescent waxing moon. So she's just come out of her new moon. So at this point, we are now nurturing, supporting, and caring for intentions that we've set with the new moon just prior to that. I know that was a whole load of stuff, so I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if you have anything you want to add.
Once you're ready, I'm definitely we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah.
It is at 8:00, as long as you're okay with going over a few minutes.
No, I'm fine. And before you go, I just want to mention that the other aspect is 11:02 p.m., so later in the evening. So while in the morning we've had the soul awakening and the karmic lessons, by the evening the moon sextiles Neptune. And so I associate that with being suspended within. And Neptune in tarot, representing the hanged man, is about making heads or tails of things. And it's about illusion, but also disillusion. So you can work through demystifying some things. Dreams might be potent when you have the moon and Neptune working together. And then you also had drew the card, the ancient civilizations, which I thought was really potent to the moon Saturn with the karmic lessons. So yeah, but I don't want to Yeah.
That's and you mentioned Neptune, which my eyes went woo.
Hmm.
'Cause, in just from what I understand, Neptune being an incredible, it's really like um, the way that I can explain it, or how I see is like it's the planet of like literally like spiritual ascension. Like it is a supposedly where Lord Shiva, the Hindu creator, one of the Hindu creator gods, come from, and he represents transcendence. So really
Hmm.
like overcoming. Which there goes the owl that I pulled in the first card, which is what you touched on about by 11:02 p.m. Seeing kind of through the illusion of
Hmm.
possibly even karmic
Hmm.
prints, karmic debt, seeing
Hmm.
through, your own personal illusions and kind of piecing things together to enlightenment, really.
Yeah.
Um, and Lord Shiva is actually said to be one that brought like Reiki healing to the planet, and energy healing. So it's really it's incredible that it's a Neptune, because whether that has anything to do with it or not, it's just it kind of shows how the impact, I think, of Neptune really even does affect us without even realizing that. To me,
Hmm.
it's incredibly powerful. So it does speak to what you said, and how I feel like at the beginning of the day, we're going to start going through this whole transformation, rebirth, awakening type process. But by the end of the day, it's almost
Hmm.
like we will have kind of crossed the threshold. And
Hmm.
that's what I'm seeing, like, as you're saying it. So
Hmm.
yeah, really, really incredible and powerful stuff. So um, I will open it up to questions for the
Okay.
last few minutes. If anybody has any questions for Meredith or even myself, I know that the light language will, and oftentimes when I do light language, it does actually assist with transmuting karmic debt and imprints. So I found it fascinating that you mentioned it as well, because probably definitely.
Hmm.
So.
And
So
I
yeah,
do have, when before we're over, I do have essential oil and gemstones for the day. So I want to
oh,
share those.
yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy that you do. So we will.
Yes,
Don't let me forget about that. So we're going to open
I
it up
won't.
for the next maybe 10 minutes for Meredith. So does anybody have any questions for Meredith at this time? And thank you all for joining. By the way, we had quite a large viewing tonight. So thank you very very much, everybody, for
Thanks,
all that.
everyone.
Yeah.
It's been
So
really cool.
Lynette asks, "Does Earth go retrograde?"
It certainly feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? So the way the retrogrades work is in our perspective to the sun. So Earth wouldn't technically go retrograde because we're on it. So the way it works is the planets appear to go retrograde based off of their orbit around the sun. So because our perspective place is coming from Earth, Earth would only go retrograde if we were on another planet or if we were on the sun, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes. But I mean, it's a great question, Lynette, because
Hmm.
you never really think about it, but it does, like Meredith said, feel
Yeah,
like we do.
there was one time when I was early on in studying astrology, and I was like, I asked myself, what sign is Earth in? And I'm like, well, Earth can't really be in a sign technically because we're on Earth, but I've heard a couple of astrologers say that you could consider Earth being in the sign that's opposite the sign the sun is in. If
Oh,
so, that's kind of an interesting avenue to explore. I haven't done a whole lot of it, but it's an interesting thought.
that kind of goes with polarities, and
Mhm. Mhm.
you see everything has a polarity. So the zodiac wheel itself, the seasons. I think I like that. I never thought about that. Very interesting.
Mhm.
So Bree asks, would you mind again touching on the sun sextiling Pluto? I missed that one.
Yeah, for sure. So, let me see. I'm going to zoom in on my chart so that I'm looking at it.
And anybody who's having difficulty accessing the chart right now, it's just because we are live, and sometimes the mobile app doesn't allow you to click on a link. But if you
Mhm.
do pull the live back up, because the replay of this will be available after it's done. If you pull this up on a computer, you will be able to click on the link and you will have access to that chart.
So One of the interesting things is that the sun is also trining Neptune at the same time throughout the day. It's not exact, but it's still within enough of an orb that it's part of the picture of the day. So the sun has, you know, Neptune there, and then keep in mind the sun is also in Scorpio right now, and Pluto being the natural ruler of Scorpio, there's going to be this kind of reception with the sun there. And then Pluto being in Capricorn right now is going to be grounding. So we're looking at a very watery, earthy type day. You have your grounding, and you have also got emotional creativity going on. But I would say that with the sun sextile Pluto, and it's different for everybody depending on what you have going on in your own chart. When I do posts every day for the Everyday Astrology, really that's just speaking to what's out there. It's not taking into consideration what you have going on in your own chart. But I would think with the sun, you're talking about your life force, and you're talking about your quest. Basically, I like to say the sun is my life's quest. And it's and sometimes for people, they come into this earth and they are already embodying their sun sign, and it's who they are. For other people, it's who they're meant to become. And that's how I feel with my sun sign, is that I'm working to become my sun sign. And with the sextile to Pluto, you have transformation as a very big, I would say that's what you're going to be kind of leaning toward. A lot of the time when there's a Pluto aspect, I like to tell people that they're not going to be fazed by upsets because they've got this under control. So we're going to already kind of have our plan made out for us for Pluto being, you know, on our side. It's good to have Pluto on your side. So if there's a specific question about how that might play out too, and you want more detail on it, I can, you know, talk to that. But
Great. Well, thank you for that. It makes a lot of sense. Scorpio sun over here, so I'm like just soaking it all in, like, okay, you know, that Pluto there. So then we have another question from Deborah. Hi, Deborah. She says, can you still have your birth chart done if you don't know your time of birth? It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question, because a lot of people don't know, and even when they think they know, they are still off. It's not exact. So you can have a birth chart done. However, you can't be exactly sure what your house cusps are, because you won't know what your ascendant is. A lot of people like to try and you can do tests to kind of figure out what your rising is. Some people intuitively just choose one because they're like, you know, I don't know what my birth date was, but I'm going to decide what my rising sign is based off of who I am. And then the other thing is your moon sign. If the moon was in a sign for the whole day, then you know that was your moon sign. But if, you know, you were born at noon and then the moon was in a sign at, 10 a.m. or 2 p.m., then you're really on the cusp of what your moon sign could possibly be. So, but a lot of people also know there too, intuitively, it's like, well, am I a Gemini or moon, or am I a Taurus moon? And you kind of know based off of,
Yeah.
that.
And and it's exactly right. Like the difference in time of day, it does make a world of difference, because I had confused when I first started looking into my rising sign. I had actually confused my time of birth with 10:30 p.m. Instead of 10:30 a.m.
Okay.
It changed my rising sign from Leo to Sagittarius. So
yeah,
I mean, from Sagittarius to Leo. I'm sorry. So it does. It makes a world of difference. So, trying to get that information. Otherwise, like Meredith said, yeah, maybe looking into each sign as a rising sign, and maybe kind of seeing what you intuitively resonate with a little bit.
Yeah, because the signs basically stay on the horizon for about 2.5 hours 2 to 2.5 hours throughout the day. You have 24 hours in the day, you have 12 signs. So roughly it spins that way. So if, like for me, I was born at 29 degrees of Virgo on the rising sign, which is literally 1 degree off from Libra rising.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I've done rising, you know, I've tested it out to try and kind of figure out which one I am, and I just have always come back to I'm too fussy to be a Libra rising.
There you go. See, that's great.
Yeah.
I like that. That's great information. Really, it is. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney asks, she says she has her birth chart, but what would you recommend to start for her to be able to interpret it or understand it?
I would say first I would look at rising and moon sign and sun sign. That would be kind of the first thing. The next thing I would do is I would say if my rising sign is Libra, I would automatically try and go and see where Venus is, because Venus rules Libra, and that kind of says that you have a strong, or that's going to have a stronger impact on you wherever Venus is. The other thing is if you have a cluster of planets in a specific location, you know, that always draws your eye to see, like, you know, well, there's a lot going on over here. And then the other thing is that if you have an empty area, like a lot of people will say, oh, I don't have anything in that part of my chart. But that doesn't mean that you don't have that sign. What it means is that you may end up projecting that sign on other people. I call it a singleton, or not having any of that sign. Or when planets transit that area of your chart is when you start to express that sign. So there's not ever really a such thing as having an empty area. You know, you want to consider those spaces, and sometimes the areas that don't have anything in them are the ones that speak the most, because it's an area that we may have, you know, even more trouble getting to or working with. So, and yeah, was that all of that question?
I think so.
Okay.
Can't see the rest of it, but it just
Okay.
was basically she was basically wanting to know, like, what
Yeah.
do to begin even trying to
Mm-hmm.
interpret or understand. And
Another really cool thing is to look at the tone of the chart. And this might be a little bit more advanced, but every sign has a modality. It's going to be cardinal, fixed, or mutable, which means it's more of a leadership sign, or it's more of a I'm going to, you know, stay firm in my belief sign, or I could go either way. So it's good to look at the elements and see, you know, where do you have the most of a specific, what element are you mostly toned to? What modality are you mostly toned to? What houses do you mostly have your signs in? So those are also kind of interesting ways to look at your chart.
very good information. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. I hope that answers your question, Courtney. So Lindsay asks, can a birth chart give any reference to soulmates, twin flames, karmic relationships, etc.?
I believe it can. There are a lot of astrologers that they specialize in those kinds of specific things. What I've found is that wherever you have Saturn, or you have Saturn and Venus, that's kind of like forever friends. Like you've probably known one another in a previous life, or you'll know one another in a future life. As well, what I like to do is I look at someone's chart and I say, what sign do they have on their seventh house? And that's the house of relationships, or the house of others. It's on the axis of the first house and the seventh. So the first house being the self, the seventh house being the not self. So I look at what sign is on the seventh, and then I say what planet rules that sign. And then wherever that planet is in the chart will speak to what it is that you look for in relationships. So if there's anybody that, you know, you've done a synastry chart or a composite chart with, and they happen to have a lot going on in that area, that can also speak to that. The other thing, yeah, the other thing is the 12th house cusp. So whatever sign you have on the 12th house usually speaks to, or the ruler of that, the planet ruler of that sign speaks to your karma. So that's also interesting to look at.
That's very interesting. I never accepted. I never thought that for a second. So thank you for that. And great question. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, and last but not least, Bree says that she's a Scorpio rising with Pluto in the first house over there. So, holla to a Scorpio sister, although I'm Scorpio sun, not rising. But, and she also says you have the tone on your website, don't you?
I do. I have a little app on my website, and I recently migrated my site over, and I'm pretty sure that it's functioning now. But if you go to my site and you click on Trove and you go to apps, there's a chart tone app, and all you need is to have a copy of your birth chart, and you can go in and you just put in the signs that you have on each house. And then you just click the button and it will automatically calculate your tone, and then it'll give you questions to reflect on. And that's actually something that I got from a book that I would highly recommend to anybody to read called Through the Looking Glass. That book was one of the first astrology books that I read all the way from front to back and couldn't put down. And it's by a gentleman who's no longer with us on this planet, Richard Idemon. And he wrote this book, I think, in the 80s. And he has this chart tone point calculation system that he had in the back of the book. And my Virgo rising was like, I'm going to give my boyfriend all my calculations, and he's a programmer. So he made the little app for me. So that was
wow. Cool. That's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to check that out on your website.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. And my husband is a Virgo, so
okay.
he's a Virgo sun.
Okay.
But he is true to the Virgo, so he is all into the technology, website design, all of that. So
nice.
That's funny because every time that I need something, I'm like, yeah, I need you to like do all this stuff for me. So
that's funny.
But all right, everybody, that is going to be it for this evening's Magick Hour. On that note, so thank you so much, Meredith, for joining.
Oh, we were gonna do the oil and the gemstone.
Oh, yes.
I almost forgot.
I would forget. Yes, absolutely. So on 11/11/11, the essential oil and crystal that Meredith recommends working with.
So because this is a special day, I have a blend. I couldn't just decide on one oil. But yeah. So, and you don't have to have all of them, you could just have one, or you could choose your own mix of them all. But the first one is tangerine because it represents cheer and creativity. The next one is, and by the way, I've been diffusing this blend all day long with all of them. So I'm getting prepared. The next one is ylang ylang because it represents the inner child. Basil, it's for renewal. Wild orange for abundance. Lime for the zest for life. And red mandarin for a childlike perspective.
Ooh.
So yeah, a mix of those, and it's kind of florally and herbally, but also has the citrus in it, and it's very uplifting, but it still feels grounding at the same time. So you're not just floating completely. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I love tangerine and wild orange. Like they're two of my favorite essential oil scents. But I don't have any of the basil or the red mandarin, so I'm definitely gonna have to get my hands on those. Before that, I'm gonna be logging onto my account. So wonderful, and the crystal. Oh my god!
Yes,
I'm so
yes.
Crystal for me.
I have a crystal for each of the luminaries involved because we've got that sun aspect with Pluto. Exact, and for that I've chosen citrine, For the moon, of course, moonstone.
That's what
No surprise.
I call that my stone.
Yes,
I love the
it,
moon.
it's the goddess stone.
That would make sense.
Yes. For Pluto, spirit quartz.
Ooh.
Yeah. For Saturn, lapis lazuli.
Ooh.
And for Neptune, sodalite.
Love it.
And when I do my post for the day, for that day, I'll go into more detail on all of these. So if anybody wants to follow up on that, they can.
Yeah, absolutely. So Meredith's page on Facebook, facebook.com/Mermade Trove, MERMADE Trove. We have the link here in the comments. Also, Meredith, do you want to drop the link to your website as well?
Yes, yes.
So you can contact Meredith. Every day she posts and very easy to understand, wonderful posts on the astro forecast of the day, including the essential oil and crystal to work with for the day. If you don't have the essential oil or the crystal, it's okay. I want people to know that, especially when it comes to crystals. Crystals to me, and to most people who work with crystals, are alive. Crystals have spirits the same way trees and flowers. So you can always call in the crystal deva or the crystal spirit of that crystal if you don't have it for the day and ask it
Absolutely.
to work with you and assist you. And I'm going to say the same thing with the essential oil. Even if you don't have it, if it's not one you can get your hands on, especially because sometimes oils can be, they can be a little pricey. But if you don't, they all came from a plant or a flower or something living. So you can do the same thing that way and work with them energetically that way. But yes, so Meredith will be posting every day, does every day her astro forecast. And on 11/11/11, you can absolutely expect to see her astro forecast for the day, wrapping up and summing up all that we talked about today. I will also be live next week on 11/11/11 for the Magic Hour at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, joined by my lovely soul sister of light, Karen of Oracles of the Light with me. And she is a sound and vibrational therapist. And she works with sound frequencies and tuning forks. So we'll be talking all about the power of healing with sound, as well as I will be talking about light language and sharing a special light language transmission to assist with the ascension process for everybody on the gateway. And Meredith, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, everybody. This has been an awesome experience, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so grateful that you shared your wisdom with us, and you really did. You've brought a different perspective, and I think that you made it. You spoke in ways that I think is easy for everyone to understand.
Awesome.
So I greatly appreciate that. I encourage everybody to check out her page, check out her services. I know I've got a birth chart scheduled with her, so
yes, looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yes, I'm so excited. So love and magical blessings to you, Meredith. Love and magical blessings, and thank you all so much. Deep gratitude for tuning in with us and spending your Sunday evening with us. We greatly appreciate that. I'm going to let you go. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye.
Thank you.